Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to a video going over why I personally think Carlos Sainz is the right driver for Ferrari to put alongside Charles Leclerc next year. Now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one. Then again, how boring would life be if we all agreed? And I'm sure there are plenty out there who think Ricciardo or Giovinazzi, Kvyat, Magnussen, even Alonso are better options than Sainz. But hear me out on this one. Honestly, I am absolutely adamant he is the way to go. Last season, and nobody's going to convince me otherwise on this one, but last season he was absolutely superb. Yes, that McLaren was the best car they've built in the last few seasons, certainly better than anything they had with Honda. Yeah, okay, the power unit was terrible, but the chassis was also pretty awful. And so you've got to take that into account. The car was better, so he's going to outperform what they did in previous seasons. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how good a car is, that driver has still got to deliver on its potential. And he extracted the absolute maximum from that car. And alright, he was lucky with it, but he also got them their first podium since 2014. Nearly 100 points as well across 13 points finishes. He was bloody brilliant last year. Now, I'm not saying that Ferrari should only take one season into account, and I'm also not buying some arguments out there that he's only had one good season, because it's frankly not true. Absolutely, it has got to be pointed out that he was well beaten by Verstappen in 2015, and he lost heavily to Nico Hülkenberg in 2018 too, 69 points to 53, and it's not like Sainz had a load of DNFs to excuse that. Hülkenberg had 7, Sainz had 2, so that gap could and perhaps should have been even bigger. But during their time as teammates, so from the 5th race of 2016, Spain, all the way through to the end of the Singapore Grand Prix in 2017, he battered Daniel Kvyat. Danny scored 8 points across 2 seasons with Sainz. Carlos picked up 94, and there wasn't a massive gulf between them either in DNFs. In 2016, Kvyat had 5 to Sainz's 3. In 2017, Kvyat had 5 to Sainz's 4. To be fair, by the way, I think we can cut Kvyat a little bit of slack for part of 2016, given that he did get the ultimate kick in the gut from Red Bull and that's going to knock his confidence, and so therefore might translate into disappointing track performances. But that doesn't account for the whole of 2016 and what was the majority of 2017. And I should also say as well, I know it's not all about stats, it's about how they performed on track as well, but the stats are the easiest thing to go over in things like this. If you want to talk about performances, Sainz showed he had a hell of a lot of potential through 16 and 17 in particular, but also showed some very good qualities through 2015 and 2018 despite being well beaten. But things like his speed and his consistency, he's shown that over his 5 years in F1, regardless of how he's performed against his teammates. So from his 5 seasons in Formula 1, Carlos Sainz has had 3 very good seasons. So the whole one good season argument is nonsense to me. And another argument as well, which I think is crap, quite frankly, is people that are saying that Ricciardo beat Hülkenberg and Hülkenberg beat Sainz, so therefore Ricciardo is the better driver and the better option. I kind of see that train of thought, and it may well be that Daniel Ricciardo is a better driver than Carlos Sainz. But to make that comparison around the whole Hülkenberg thing is nonsense. You are comparing 2 completely different seasons, 2 very different cars, and you're also comparing Ricciardo against Hülkenberg and Sainz against Hülkenberg, not Ricciardo directly against Sainz, if that makes sense. If you want to directly compare Ricciardo versus Sainz or how they would perform against each other, it's got to be in the same car, the same circumstances. It's irrelevant comparing how Ricciardo performed against Hülkenberg versus how Sainz performed against Hülkenberg. We can speculate, like I say, Ricciardo might be the better driver, but I don't buy into that argument. Something else I don't agree with as well is something that's flying around on social media at the moment, that Sainz going to Ferrari as number 2 is going to destroy his career. 100% Sainz has got a lot more to offer than just being a number 2 driver, but I do not believe that moving to Ferrari will totally destroy his career. There are a few reasons behind that. One of them is the fact that he's only 25, 26 in September. So let's argue for a second that he goes to Ferrari as number 2. He has a terrible time. He's instructed to do a Barrichello from Austria 2002 and stop on the line and let Leclerc win. Everyone's looking at him going, oh, he's just a number 2 driver. He's terrible, no quality at all. And he turns around after 2 years and he goes, do you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go somewhere else and I want to prove that I have got what it takes to be in Formula 1 and to challenge for titles or challenge for something. If he did that, he would only be 28 years old. There is still plenty of time for him to go off to another team and prove himself again. So in many ways, this feels like the right time for him to do that. There's still time to recover if it all goes drastically wrong is kind of what I'm saying there. Ricciardo, for example, on the other hand, is 31 at the end of this year, so 2 years as a number 2 at Ferrari. If he decides he hates it and wants to move on, he'll be 33. Now that isn't old. I'm 34 for God's sake, it's not old at all. But in sporting terms, he would definitely be in the latter stages of his career. Less time to recover, and perhaps because of his age, fewer options available too. So if that offer is for a number 2 driver, it is not the right time for Ricciardo, not to mention the fact that he left Red Bull because he didn't want to be a number 2 driver. But although it may have some sort of detrimental effect on his career in some people's eyes, I don't necessarily agree, but if it did, there is still time for Sainz to get over that in his career. Like I say, right now feels like the right time. And that's my other point. Drivers have got to live in the here and now, especially the midfield drivers. There is absolutely no denying that McLaren are on the up. You look at where they were a couple of seasons ago. Again, yeah, that's because of the whole Honda thing, but they were nowhere. They're definitely on their way back towards the front of the grid, but they are still only best of the rest. And whilst Andreas Seidel and Zach Brown are doing fantastic jobs at getting everybody pulling in the right direction, and that's now starting to show on track and in the results, the simple fact is they are still a long way off being regular podium challengers and race winners. They can lay out the most fantastic roadmap to Carlos Sainz and say, look, this is where we want to be in 1, 3, 5 years' time. And Sainz might look at that and go, hang on a minute, that's bloody brilliant. I want to be winning titles with you in 5 years' time. That's awesome. Let's stay. But that's not a guarantee. He doesn't know that's going to happen. That is what they want to do. That's their aim. And whilst they may well get there, it's still a long way off. Drivers want to be winning races, challenging for regular podiums, fighting for titles. They don't just want to be best of the rest for the rest of their career. And the harsh reality is that even if he is just a number 2, a number 2 driver at Ferrari is still far more likely to be scoring regular podiums and picking up race wins than an outright number 1 driver at McLaren. That's what I mean about the here and now. If he moves to Ferrari, he knows he's got a shot at winning races. That's what he wants to do. He's a racing driver. If he stays at McLaren, he might have the opportunity for the odd podium. There's an outside chance he might get a win in a crazy race. And perhaps in a couple of years' time, they might be challenging for wins regularly. That's all ifs and buts. I'm not saying moving to Ferrari guarantees wins because it may not. They might build a terrible car. This year's car might be awful when we finally get racing. You never know. They might have the 9th best car on the grid in 2021. But I just don't see that. And even if Ferrari build an whatever kind of car, they're still going to be up there fighting for something. If he stays at McLaren, right now, he's fighting for 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place. So what would you do as a racing driver? Would you pick Ferrari and the chance of wins, or McLaren and a good chance of finishing 7th? I know what I'd do. So yeah, absolutely, he needs to look to the future, but if Ferrari or Mercedes or Red Bull come knocking, as a racing driver, he's got to take that opportunity when it comes along, because it may never come along again. Let's say Sainz says, no thanks Ferrari, I'm going to put my faith in McLaren. And in 3 years' time, McLaren are no better. Look at the Ferrari Driver Academy. Who is sat there waiting, potentially, to make their way into Formula 1? Mick Schumacher. Everyone's talking about him. Also, outside of that academy, look at the young drivers we've got in F1 now and coming through the ranks. If Sainz says no, but realises in 3 years' time he probably should have said yes, Ferrari are not going to be interested. They're going to be on to the next young thing. He's got to live in the here and now and take the opportunity when it comes. And do you know what? It might go horrifically wrong. He might have a shocking time there and be treated like a doormat. And perhaps the odd win isn't going to make up for that in his view. But what if it goes brilliantly? I know a lot of people will go, oh, come on, Sean, don't be ridiculous. But let's just say, for argument's sake, he goes to Ferrari and matches Leclerc. What if, in Dreamland, he even beats him? Teams want to win races, they want to win titles. That is their end goal. What are they going to do if their number 2 driver is suddenly beating their number 1 driver? They're going to swap them over. Look at what happened last year with Vettel and Leclerc. Leclerc beat him, is the number 1 driver now, Vettel's leaving. For me, Ferrari would not hesitate if Sainz did the same to Leclerc. My point is, this is his chance, a chance that he's not had before, to show that he can deliver with a very top team, and if he can capitalise on this opportunity and get close to Leclerc, match him, even beat him, it will suddenly be the best move he could have made. I know, again, like I said earlier, there's a lot of ifs and buts in there, and it's probably unlikely he will beat Leclerc. It's unlikely he'll be allowed to beat Leclerc. But the thing is, it's okay saying, oh, it's all going to go horribly wrong, but what if it doesn't? That's what he's got to look at. If he doesn't grab this opportunity, it might never come up again and he spends his entire career at best in the midfield. That's why, in the short term, it is absolutely the right move for Sainz and the right time for him to do it. In the long term, I might look back at this video and go, Jesus Christ, that did not age well. Look at where McLaren are. But there's also a very strong possibility that I'll be saying, well, actually, McLaren never really improved from 4th place. And if Sainz doesn't move, he looks stupid. He's got to do it. He's got to take it. He's a racing driver, like I keep saying. They're not there to finish 7th. But just looking away from Sainz for a moment, I think it's the right move for Ferrari as well. Ricciardo's quick. He's a proven race winner, and we know that if he got in that Ferrari, chances are he's probably going to win races. The problem is, he may also be less receptive to the idea of being a number 2 driver and being asked to move out of the way for Leclerc. I'm not saying Sainz will welcome that opportunity with open arms. I'm pretty sure there'd be some resistance there in a race-winning position too, from any driver. But Sainz is more likely to be compliant than Ricciardo is, and less likely to rock that boat at Ferrari. I'm not convinced, though, that this is all about finding a number 2 driver, because if they want a number 2 driver who's going to happily pull a Barrichello, or I keep picking on Barrichello, bless him, an Irvine, go get Giovinazzi. He's your easy option. He will do anything you want him to do because he's going from Alfa Romeo to Ferrari and he's Italian. That's kind of like the ultimate dream move for him. You put Gio in that car, he'll hop out of the way for Leclerc left, right and centre. But just before I go any further, when I say number 2 driver, I don't mean a second driver, I mean a de facto get out of the way the number 1 driver's coming through driver. But it doesn't look as though they're going for him. It looks like they're going to sign Sainz. So they can't just be looking for a number 2 to Leclerc. They must want somebody who's quick and consistent, and they get it in Sainz. He's also young enough to give them, 7, 8 years at that team? Maybe form the perfect partnership and a great relationship with Leclerc, and maybe help Ferrari to dominate in Formula 1 in the future again. Just not sure it's all about finding a number 2 driver for Ferrari. They want somebody quick. They want somebody they know can pick up the pieces if Leclerc fails for whatever reason. You know, if Leclerc crashes out of a race or has a mechanical failure, do you want a number 2 driver who can bring the car home in 6th place, or do you want one who can pick up the pieces and take the win? I don't know. And I'm fully aware, by the way, that a lot of this video is waffle and I've possibly repeated myself 100 times, but I'm not using a script for this because, frankly, I think they make for better videos. But anyway, apart from the numbers sat in front of me, it's all off the top of my head, so that's worrying. But frankly, I think Sainz has got to go to Ferrari if this opportunity comes along. And I think he's the perfect option for Ferrari right now as well. There are, Alonso, maybe, but he isn't going to go to Ferrari to play number 2 to Leclerc, and he's going to cause more trouble than Vettel ever did, that's for sure. Ricciardo doesn't want to be a number 2 driver at Red Bull, so he's not going to want to do it at Ferrari. I've already said what I said about Giovinazzi. He's perfect for that number 2 role if that's all they're looking for. And I don't think Hülkenberg is realistically an option for them. He'd love it. I'm pretty sure he would rip their arm off if they offered it, but I don't think they will. But anyway, should we leave it there for today? Otherwise, I'm still going to be waffling come Saturday. But feel free, as always, to pop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think it's going to be Carlos Sainz? Reports seem to be saying that it is going to be. Or do you think we might see a twist in the tail yet and we could see somebody else fill that seat at Ferrari? Now, I will be back soon with more content as ever. In fact, again, if reports are to be believed, it will be tomorrow. But on Sunday, live streams are also back, and I'm going to be joined by Chamber and Dan from F1/E Reviews for a bit of chat about everything that's happened this week and when we might see a season. In the meantime, though, don't forget that you can, of course, follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching, and I will catch you again in the next one. Bye-bye.